All right, welcome to this episode of Life on the Streets. It's the greatest show on earth, brought to you by ADB Training. I'm your host, Rick,
I'm Tom.
and we have a really special guest for you today. This is going to be a lot of fun. But before we get to that, Tom, it's time for the tomfoolery moment.
Oh God,
Okay, so I have a question for you.
I'm sure you do.
Oh, I do. So, if you were a famous pirate, what would your name be?
Oh man, if I was a famous pirate, what would my name be
Yeah.
Tomahawk Tom.
Tomahawk Tom.
I like it
Why?
because it sounds cool, and I
Oh.
just carry a tomahawk all the time. A couple of them.
I would have
You know.
called you Captain Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Now, Tomahawk Tom's much better
Tomahawk
than Captain
Tom.
Fantastic.
Oh, what would mine be? Captain Curmudgeon.
Okay,
You don't know?
now
What would it be then? You tell me what mine would be. You tell me.
I don't know,
Be
like
nice.
desperately dying Rick.
Captain Desperately Dying Rick.
Um, you could be called the Plague, Captain Plague.
What? No, that
Yeah,
doesn't
dude, you
even
get
sound.
like
You
everything
know
in the
what?
world.
You've just ruined the whole moment. We were going to have a whole thing conversation on this, and you can't even do it.
Ah, my bad.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well,
Onwards and upwards.
onwards and upwards. All right. So today we have Danny Mee, co-founder of ADB Training. Welcome, Danny.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, can you kind of just sort of tell the audience who you are, what you're about, where you come from, what's your favorite color, what's your favorite Jello?
My favorite Jello is absolutely strawberry. Where where I come from is the city and county, Philadelphia. Born and raised there. Was there for 40 years. Had a wonderful time living there. Moved about 7 years ago outside of the city to a nice rural community, which has been fun. It's a big change from living in the big city for so long and then moving out there. My career in law enforcement started shortly thereafter 9/11 in October of 2001. I was working in the city of Philadelphia as a cop there for, going on 24 years. I'll wrap up this fall with 24 years on. Rank as sergeant. All my time has been spent on patrol, running around the street with my hair on fire, going Mach 5, answering 911 calls, and helping the folks out there in the city.
All
Having a great
right.
time doing it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. So
Oh,
if
yes.
so if that's true, why is the crime through the roof? I mean, you hurt the ones you love. I get that. But I mean,
Mhm. Well, there's plenty of factors why
Mhm.
crime goes through the roof, especially in a place like Philadelphia or an urban environment. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around to everybody. There's blame to go around to politicians. There's blame to go around to us in law enforcement. There's blame to go around to the schools. I think that we're not looking at big picture when it comes to uh, big cities. I don't think we
Yeah,
look to the
yeah,
long game where we need to really um, enforce education on
right.
young people, right? Make sure that they're able to read, write, and do arithmetic before they leave their school. And that means that you have to finish high school. No more Mickey Mousing around. You need to really invest in the children if you want to have a productive environment. I think that we as a society have fallen far short of that. And then what are children going to do? They're going to pick up the guns and the drugs and they're going to start crime because it seems like easy money and uh, a very exciting life to them while they're young.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So now, so you're a third generation Philly cop, right?
Sure am.
Three.
My grandfather was a lieutenant in the Philadelphia Police Department. He did 30 years. My father was in homicide. He did 32, 33 years. So, the torch was passed down to me, blazing as it was in right after 9/11.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now it's very much doused. And it's sad to see.
It
Hmm.
is. It is. Speaking of 9/11, I have a question for you because this was a conversation that I had with my wife not too long ago, and it was interesting. Um, do you remember where you were on 9/11 when you heard the
200%.
news? Where were
Yes.
you?
before I got in the Philadelphia Police Department, I was working at an IT organization doing software development. I was working in the quality assurance department. I was sitting in my office and somebody stood up from the Cube Farm. One of the programmers stood up from the Cube Farm, listening to music. He was listening to the Stern Show, Howard Stern Show. He yells over to me, "Hey, Danny, a plane just hit the trade towers." And I never went to New York. I was never the guy that went up to New York or anything like that. So I wasn't, the only thing I knew about the trade towers was from Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy,
Oh,
where they,
yeah.
where they were going there. That was the extent of my knowledge of that. And like many other people, I thought, it was a little plane or whatever. Somebody's trying to fly between them. And of course, 2 minutes later, the second plane hits. We all know
Right.
what's going down at that point.
Wow. Yeah. So it's interesting because I remember where I was. Do you remember where you were? Where were you?
I was at home. I was at home, just woke up, and my ex-wife actually called me and said, "Hey, you need to turn the TV on. Um, an airliner just hit one of the World Trade Center towers." And she called me because my current wife, now we weren't married at the time, was actually in New York on a business trip at the time. And so I turned TV on and I caught the second tower hitting, or the second tower getting hit, and then was trying to get a hold of my current wife at the time, and couldn't get anything through this. I guess cell phone. Obviously, the cell phone coverage was just
Right.
spotty and crazy then. It took a while before I actually got a hold of her, but she was actually supposed to have a meeting, I think in Tower One that morning. That got canceled that morning before she went. Left the hotel to go down there. So she ended up being stuck in New York for, I think, like a week and a half before she'd get a flight back. Luckily, she had a cousin that lived in Long Island. So, or actually, no, he lived in Queens at the time. And so he came across a bridge, hung out with her, picked her up, and pretty much spent the entire time with her while she was there, with all that crap that was going down.
Wow. Yeah. See, I was the same. So I had just gotten home. We'd been out all night on a call out and I'd just gotten home. No, just gone to bed. And my wife wakes me up and tells me, "Hey, do you need to see this?" And so, we turn on the TV in the bedroom, and she was really freaked out about this because, I mean, we had just been there because my mother-in-law lived in New York, and we had just been there, just not even 3 weeks prior to that. And it was crazy. So we were watching that and I was in disbelief, and then, that the whole devastation thing starts to come out, how many people we lost and like that. And then it kind of hit Lynn and I very hard because I had a buddy on NYPD. He was a sergeant. His name was Michael Doherty. He was killed in the towers. And it was just like, this is just, it's just interesting. But I only asked because you brought it up, but it was such a defining moment in our time. You know what I mean? And and I think that's when law enforcement kind of started to change, don't you think? Would you say that
Well,
that's
there's no doubt about it. I mean, when I got on, everything was, it was everybody was pro police
yeah,
because everybody was, and no pun intended, terrified.
Hmm.
They didn't care what we did as long as we went out there, we got the baddies, and we did it as policy driven as possible. They didn't care.
right,
The public wanted safety, and they demanded it from us in law enforcement. And all my training was in the academy was surrounded by the thought of terrorism, which
exactly.
in retrospect, it was great for me as a new officer coming in because I never had experience being a law enforcement officer before that. I didn't experience anything of any negativity towards the police. I mean, my father and grandfather would tell me stories and things like that. But personally, when I got on the job, everybody loved us. They were like, "Go out, do the job. We don't care what you got to do. Get these guys and take care of business." And to see it come, 25 years later, 24 years later, and you go, "Wow, we're coming out of quite the storm of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
vitriolic response to law enforcement that's been over the past couple of years. It's been really mind blowing."
Well, and it's interesting because I think, because being in law enforcement for a long time before 9/11, um, we were in that age of the whole, war on drugs, and then the broken windows theory of crime, and then we were so solely crime focused, right? And it was, and then after 9/11, our whole law enforcement perspective changed, and it changed from the war on drugs. Our lens, our how we viewed things changed from a war on drugs to a war on terrorism,
Hmm.
you know, and we started, and people, you're right, people loved us, and we went so long for, in that basking in that love of people thinking, we're great, and then to have it all taken away is kind of hard, right? You know, and it disappeared so fast, almost as quickly as it came,
Yeah,
so it's interesting.
Mhm.
So you started ADB training with Monty Bynum, right? And
absolutely.
so how did this come about? Tell us about what happened here.
Well, that's a pretty cool story, if I may say so myself.
And
Well,
you did.
as I was starting to get to that 20-year mark in as being a cop, I felt that I needed to do something else. And how was I going to transition out of law enforcement? And I was still in my 40s and saying to myself, where can I go to get a job or another career, or what does that look like for someone? Because again, I look to my family when they retired, their retirement packages and the way that their family was set up, they all had, we all of us kids, we were older, we were on our own by the time that my father retired at age 51. So
Okay.
for him, it wasn't, he didn't have to worry about he didn't have those concerns. But for me, I was still in my 40s, and I had a family that I was still raising, and saying to myself, what can I possibly bring to the table to corporate America, for example? So I talked to my brother, who works over at Amazon as an executive. He works over there in the cloud division, and he said, well, the first thing that you need to do is get a fleshed out profile on social media. I was never in social media. I never cared about it. Um, the arguments that go on there are just so petty and
Right.
ridiculous to me. It seemed like a complete waste of time. So he suggested that I build out a profile on LinkedIn, which was a much more business based platform. So I did that. Then I come across Monty, and he's hit me up saying, "Hey, when are we going to work together?" He had a business already called The Wealthy Servant, where he was bringing in entrepreneurs who he would help coach along and move them into the business world. He's in the military, he's a Marine captain, and also law enforcement for 30 years over several different areas. So he was somebody that I could trust, in guiding me. And over the conversation, over a year or so, he had developed ADB. And when he told me that and told me what it stood for, a different breed. We as cops, we're not better or worse than anybody, but we are certainly different. And there
That
is
is
no question
true.
about that. So
Nobody
it
can
was
argue that.
right. So he told me about how it was going to be a training program and how we were going to do everything possible to make the lives of law enforcement officers better through training, education, support, networking, and all the things. And it was really intriguing. So I jumped right on board. And that was, geez, just a little over a year ago. And in that time frame, we have really um, branched out into a variety of things, and we are starting to really take off. And it's exciting. It's exciting to step into that entrepreneurial side of things.
So, what moment in your career, right? What moment in your career made you step back and say, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go, something like ADB. What made you go in that direction? I mean, what is it that drives you?
I always had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I was always driven to go uh, into the real estate world. That's
Really?
really what I wanted to do. I was really interested in getting into the real estate world, whether it was flipping houses or renting them out, vacation properties, things like that. The problem is I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was talking about, and I had no money. So how do you start a business? And
Yeah.
that was the whole genesis for me. I had always wanted to do it. And as a cop, I didn't have that network. I knew people that owned houses and they tried to explain it to me of flipping houses, and it just wasn't sinking into my head. I just wasn't understanding what they were trying to communicate to me on how to do it. And as I went along, it was very frustrating that I didn't have a solid network of individuals that were out there that I could lean on to say, hey, I need a mentor over here in the entrepreneurial side. And I trust law enforcement officers that are all over the place. So that's who I wanted to sync up with, because I felt a deep trust with them. So that's really where it all came from.
So when you met up with Monty, right, and you guys started this training, you clearly had a vision, right? Um, but that vision, because both you and Monty are clearly visionaries. I mean, I've gotten to know you guys pretty well over the last year, and it's been wonderful, right? He's more that scary visionary, where, and you're that fun visionary, okay?
I feel like
We,
he's going to
but we try
appreciate
to
that a
boil
lot
each other.
later.
Oh yeah, no, he knows. He's that guy, right? He's that
Not bad guy.
he's got an instant authority figure to persona to him, right? And and
Without
you're
question.
you've got that instant one of the guys your personas. Do you know what I mean? And both have
Yes.
value. So that's great. So that's why you guys probably play off of each other very well, you know? But so I guess the question I have is, now that you're into this training thing, right? And you spent as much time as you did in law enforcement, okay? And you were always a boots on the ground kind of guy. So you're not coming from this from a some sort of pedestal or tower mentality, right? So boots on the ground. What do you
Mhm.
say? What would you say we as an industry, law enforcement industry, can do better? And what do we do pretty well?
Well, I think that the one thing that we need to do better is obviously education, and we need to raise the bar for the entire industry. A lot of what Monty had talked about is that we have failed to be a profession, right? We lower standards because we have a recruitment problem instead of raising the standards and saying, listen, if we're only going to
Right.
get two people into our agency, let's make them the top tier people. Let's make sure that they have a military background, that they have a high level of education, that they're bringing something to the table. Not to say that people that don't have a high school GED, for example, can't do the job. I mean, my father, he went to the University of Kensington in Philadelphia. So, he did not go. His education was not high, and he wound up being a very extremely successful homicide detective.
Sure.
But the game has changed from 1968 to 2025, and we should invest in these individuals. On the side of doing things good, I think that we do a good job of locating individuals who have that dedication. They have the dedication, they have the heart, they have the passion for the profession. But once they're here and they see what's going on, we lose a lot of those people to, there's a lot of free agency that's going on right now, in people hopping from one agency to another, and some people
Mhm.
just
Right.
leaving the profession altogether because they see us as a soup sandwich, and they're not receiving the support that they need from the community or even from the agency there. So they say it's time to go. They were here
Yeah.
for a couple of years, and it's time to go. So we need to do better there as well.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of that too, even early on in my career back in the early 2000s, where, like even our agency was kind of a stepping stone to the next agency. Guys that come get 2 years of experience and then move on. But I think a lot of that back then was more due to like benefits and pay
Mhm.
and that type of stuff.
Well,
Before
and
they moved on, they come and get the experience with us, and then they would head to a bigger agency or whatever else
or
until
someplace that pays
or
better.
pays
They
better. But
actually,
until
most of
until
them
we
moved
got
to a slower agency
yeah
where they got more money and less
and
work,
less
which is
yeah
interesting to me,
yeah
right?
because
You
we
know,
were I
Absolutely.
mean we were
busy.
busy.
But so the yeah, so the question that I have though is how do we change that? What do we do differently now? I mean, training is a big part, but how do we win back? How do we win back the community, right? How do we win back that public trust? Um, is it through marketing? I mean, how do we do that? What do you think?
Certainly marketing is one thing. We have to get ourselves together and figure out what our mission is. Is our mission going out here and having barbecues and line dancing, or is it putting the bad guys in jail? And quite frankly, we can do all the extra stuff later, but it's just like in school. If you can't add one and one together, then you can't do calculus. So let's get the basics. Let's get the fundamentals down. Let's get that those core values that we hold dear as law enforcement officers and push that out to the public through serious marketing campaigns. If you go out there and show people that they're going to be, having a community barbecue every day, that's not the type of people that we want to attract to this industry. We want to attract people that are going to come over here, that are going to run down a dark alleyway chasing somebody with a gun. That's who we want. And that is a unique breed, a different breed of people. 99% of the people on planet Earth are not going to want to do that, but we do. So you have to focus in on those people and have that mission. When you look to other agencies, some are doing it really, really well, and they have a surplus of people still waiting in line even today. What are they doing right? They're creating that culture.
Yeah.
Right. And the culture is created, and we could, the debate is it start from the top or the bottom, but it has to start somewhere.
Right. Right. Yeah. So would you agree with this, Tom? One of the things that we started to see over the last at least 5 years before, since little before 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the officers coming into the profession, and again, because it is a profession, we got to start treating it like a profession, but because it is a profession, but the young people coming into the profession, they aren't looking to chase bad guys down the alley. They're not looking to do, specialized units other than they want to be like public the what is it like SROs, and they want to be like public information officers, and they want to do the stuff that, community policing unit, but they don't want to do police work. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that that generation that was coming in during that time frame, probably I would say 2015 even on,
Yeah.
was kind of that way, that they, a lot of them, and obviously not all of them, because we had some dudes that came in that were serious meat eaters that, they wanted to go out and catch bad guys, put bad guys in jail. But a lot of the other ones, it's almost like they wanted to come in and do the social work
Yeah.
aspect, and not really do anything with actual cop work, you know. Um, and I think there's something to be said for that type of person, but you have to have the people that are willing to go out and, like you said, chase the bad guy down the alley with the gun, make entry into a hostage situation, do all that 1%, 2% stuff, and still be okay with the 98%, because I mean, to be honest, most of it is, what, 5 hours of boredom and 5 seconds of terror,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what was the old
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
But I do agree with that. There was definitely a significant change in the recruits that we were getting.
So how do we address that though? How do we change that mentality?
I don't think I mean, changing the mentality needs to come from instruction, and it needs to come from, again, it needs to come from our mission. What are we doing? You can have all the community relations units, just like you have SWAT and bomb squad and all that stuff, and that's totally fine, but you can't just come in, work the street for a year, and then get shuffled off somewhere. That's not how it works. You need to hone your craft on the street. If you don't know what you're doing out there as a police officer responding to 911 calls, or you're refusing to hone your craft, then you don't belong in this industry at all. You need to get out of here. Now that comes with recruitment, and it also comes with ongoing the culture that we foster at each one of these agencies, and that needs to happen. That needs to happen from the executive branch, and that needs to happen, and it also needs to trickle down to the officers so that they are guiding people along as they come in. As a sergeant in Philadelphia, I always felt it was my responsibility to groom people along and discuss with them, where do you see yourself in 5 years, type of thing.
Right, right.
Mhm.
I would tell people all the time, don't do it. I spent 17 years running around, and it didn't do me any good. I never wanted to do anything else. But as far as like career, trajectory, I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to go follow my father to homicide. There was no way I was going to homicide. I'm going to go to work, 90 hours a day. That just no, thank you. Um, and I certainly wasn't capable of being a SWAT operator. That was not in my wheelhouse either. So what
Yeah.
was I going to do? And I felt, okay, well, make sergeant, and I can help these other people along and give them the tools they need to succeed. But certainly, you can't have people coming in here that might not be right for the job, or they're not ready to move up the chain
Right.
and go to these other units.
Well, and I
So
think,
it's really a fluid process.
yeah, and they say, and I totally believe this, but the sergeant's rank is really the backbone of any organization because they're in that sort of no man's land between the line level officers, right? And the administration. I mean, they're that intermediary. I mean, so they have a lot of responsibility. And I think that they have more responsibility to the people below them than they do to the people above them. Um, I just do. So let me ask you a question. So if a member of the general public were to ride with you for one shift, right? As what do you think would shock them the most?
I think what would shock them the most is the low manpower and the massive volume of calls we're inundated with, and what these men and women that are out there still responding to those calls, how much heart they have and how much passion they have. They're going out there and hoofing it every single day, responding to these calls, and it's really something that the citizens should be proud of and should be amped up to support them more, not just financially, but socially and in every single way, to make sure that they're putting a good, and at the end of the day, we're a product, and putting a good product out there to serve these folks. Training, of course, is a huge component to
Right.
that, and financial packages are great, but a good solid culture is necessary for any healthy agency.
Well, that's even if you could get somebody to, one of your cops to actually take somebody on a ride along.
Yeah,
Because that was
that became
always like,
nobody wants
hey,
to
we
be
got a
that
rider today.
nobody wants to be that
Yeah,
guy.
It's like
You know what I
crickets at
mean?
that point in time.
Nobody wants to be that officer because you just don't know who you're going to get, right?
And then you just got to be the dude that goes, well, it's your turn, dude. Sorry,
I mean,
but you're taking them.
can you imagine being that officer that gets the Karen?
Oh, yeah.
And everything, the whole shift is like sitting with your ex-wife.
Well, that's part of it, and that is so true, because when I was a young officer, the TV show Cops had come to Philadelphia, and
Right.
they came to where I was working, and I went downtown to go pick them up at the hotel and bring them back to headquarters. And so I was like, all right, well, they're going to ride with you, and I was like, is this a good idea? Is this a good idea? Trying my best not to be insubordinate here, but is this a good idea? And
So
the
funny.
sergeant was very kind and moved them along to somebody else. And they said it when we were driving back. I said, "Listen, I'm not really the guy that you want to be riding around in here with." And they were very cordial. They said, "Hey, listen, we only want to go with the people that want to be with us." I was very shy at that point of having anybody filming me like that.
There you go. So that brings up an interesting topic though. So cops, right? These real live police shows, you know, um, I remember, I mean, they've been out. God, I still remember watching them in the 80s, and then, like them, they were still big when I started in 89 and they were big all through the 90s, right?
Yeah, they filmed some
Well, they
in our
stopped.
city and
Well,
county.
yeah, but they stopped coming to Denver at all after. And I love him, but there's a sergeant that you probably saw this, and they quit filming after that. because he was the guy who body slams this dude in front of a liquor store, and you can't unvideo that, right? You can't
Mhm.
unsee that,
Nope.
and and
No,
you can't
that's
edit
sticking around.
that out. And they can edit out like an officer involved shooting, which they did, right? But this we here was just over the top, and that was it. I mean, they know nobody wanted to host them. You know what I mean? Because now
Hmm.
it became clear because there was a lot of outrage over that, and it was like, oh,
I
wow,
think that new one. What's the new one? What's the new one out? Real PD or
oh,
something like
live PD,
Live
live
PD?
Live
PD.
feed it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think just before we retired, they were riding with County
Okay,
and doing some stuff with County, but it was for like, like a 3 or 4 week period that these film crews were going to be with them, so they could capture enough for like one episode
Yep.
of the show.
because they edit so much out. I mean, there's such liability there, though, for any agency. I mean, you start to think about this. I mean, we have body worn cameras for a reason. Now you're sticking, you know, but people play to the camera, right? And this
Hmm.
is the big thing back when I used to design trainings, for officer safety and stuff. Is the first thing I always went to was cop videos. The cop episodes of cops because they're so busy playing for the video. Their officer safety was horrible.
Hmm.
It was just horrible.
Yes.
Yeah,
And it's
doing
just
shit they
like,
normally wouldn't do.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
It was
it gave,
distracting.
it was, but it gave the public a view, right, of what we do. But I don't think it was I don't think it was a real view of what we really do because everybody wants to see the exciting stuff, but they don't see the day-to-day stuff
Right, that's all it was.
where the officers help somebody or they're there for something, right? And they're doing some amazing things. People like the excitement and they want to see the exciting stuff, right? So reality TV, cop shows, good or bad.
Mhm. Well, the reality TV shows, I don't like them. I think that it gives control over to non-law enforcement entities to do what they're going to do for ratings purposes. And
Mm,
that's part of what I mean by marketing. Like, we need to control the narrative. Not, this isn't telling stories, this is telling the truth.
right.
Me, I love the body worn cameras. I carried a personal camcorder on me before we got them because I was tired of people telling stories about what I was doing. They're going out lying, and then the supervisor says, "Oh, well, you said this or you did that, and now here we go. There's an investigation or some silly thing." So went out and got my own camcorder and started filming all my interactions, and then shortly thereafter, we wound up getting the body worn cameras. And what I would like to see agencies do, and some are doing it, is pushing out those good stories. Yeah, we could push out like what happened in your community today. Oh, what happened on 15th Street today? Great, there was a shooting and blah blah blah, and it's terrible. And that's what you could see on the nightly news. But the good things, if I was running the show at an agency, absolutely, I'm putting that stuff out all day long,
Yeah,
Hmm.
all day long.
we do a, I think we do a horrible job of promoting the good stuff that we do. Everybody's quick to get ahead of or report the bad stuff, right? But
Yes.
nobody thinks to put out if you put out things that officers are doing that are just great. They're doing such good things and brilliant things, and you put that out all the time, and then you have
Yep.
the occasional bad thing that comes out that you get in front of. No, that negativity is no longer in the forefront of everybody's mind. It's all these other things, and then this sometimes becomes smaller than what it really need. It becomes smaller than what we make it out to be when there's nothing to compare it to.
Right. There's no comparison. There's nothing there that they see other than, oh, well, here's some horrible incident and we were right or we were wrong or officer under the bus. When, like you said, if you're pushing these videos out all the time and people are seeing what's going on and they're saying to themselves, geez, these officers are answering all these calls, and anybody that's worked the street for 5 minutes knows you're getting calls for anything from a person with a gun to, you know, my air conditioner doesn't work.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you're like, all right. And if you see that on a daily basis, and let the public know, because we can't expect the public to just know what we do.
Right.
They have
Right.
no idea what we're doing. Most
Absolutely.
people aren't calling 911. I mean, where I worked, it was the same goofball family on every block. There's 100 houses on a street in Philadelphia. You have the one goofball family that's always a problem,
Mhm.
and they were calling all the time. The interaction I had with the neighbors out there was just them rolling their eyes, that we were back on the block going to handle some silly situation there. And those folks knew that we were coming out there, but what did they know on the larger scale? That we were doing this on every single block in the entire city.
Right.
So you're talking about 1.5 million people, and you go, let's orchestrate this a little bit better. Let's be better at promoting ourselves.
Mhm.
Right. But it's also that, I think it's also that service, right? So, and we all, I mean, you're right. And this is the same in every city, town, wherever in America, right? You have those people who call for everything, right? And we as officers, we show up because that's what we do. We show up for everything, right? But people they don't see how you interact with, the person who calls on their neighbors for everything, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you show up, but you treat them with respect and you take that, they see you taking their information. You're going to take this seriously, but then you end up at the neighbors, right? And they understand because you're not over there being, oh, they don't like, I don't want to keep getting called back, but you're telling them, hey, got called here. Can we work this out? I understand it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal to her. So we're just trying to, you know what I'm saying? They don't see that
Yep.
side of us. What they see
Correct.
is that heavy-handed, well, somebody calls, somebody goes to jail, and there's this pipeline, to prison type thing. And I think that narrative gets old.
I think yes, and to piggyback on that a lot is people don't, when they do call us and they have us come out to those houses, we feel it's necessary to resolve their issue. And if there's not an arrest to be made, sometimes people just aren't going to get along, even in their own house.
Mhm.
One of my big things was domestic violence, and I couldn't stand it. It always drove me nuts, because it was really, really upsetting to see the family break down, and I just didn't like it. It was just my thing. Um, but if I get to a house and there's no arrest, and it's just a husband and wife arguing, for example, and there's nothing to, there's no arrest, I can only sit there and talk to people for so long about getting counseling and this and that and offering them services. And I would always tell them, this is the moment where no one's arrested. This is the moment where no one's in the hospital or in the morgue. So let's make adult decisions before you wind up in handcuffs. Somebody here is going to wind up going to jail or to the morgue.
Right.
So
Mhm.
this is the moment. But, some officers feel compelled to find that solution for people. And then you're in the house for an hour and it's like, what are you doing? We got to get out of here. We got
Right.
10
Mhm.
million other calls. If they're not receptive to you, you know, you get your triaging. It's
Right.
like a match.
Exactly.
We're just triaging here.
And that's not being cold. That's just being
No,
real.
I got
And
to go
that,
to help the customer that wants the help.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And I agree. I think, I think body cams overall have been a fantastic idea. And you're right. I wish that more agencies would get on top of things before, the little snippet comes out on YouTube or whatever, or somebody's cell phone gets video of 10 seconds gets sent to the media when it's when the actual incident is 2 minutes long and whatnot. I think agencies need to get on top of that stuff a lot faster than what we do. We're way behind the curve on a lot of that to show like what actually transpired and what we're actually doing and that kind of thing. So um, we just need to get a little more hot on that.
So I know,
A, a
go ahead.
seasoned PIO is crucial there. A
Yeah.
seasoned PIO who can go out and has those media contacts and says, don't do anything yet, please, pretty please with sugar on top. We're bringing out all the video so that, and you have to position it as, you don't want to be the reporter that goes out there and reports on the snippet because you're going to look like a goof.
Yeah.
because we're going to put this out right after you put that out, and it's going to be the whole thing, and you know, you're not going to look so good. So wait for
Exactly.
everything to come out.
All right. Well, I would say, like, a little lighter note. What's the most ridiculous or hilarious situation you've you've been on while on duty?
Oh,
I've
you
been,
got to have some doozies.
I've had some really really good times on this job. I mean, it has for you have the bad days, and that is what it is. And you try to brace yourself when you're in the academy, um, and say, oh, they tell you all the horror stories. This bad thing might happen, but I wasn't prepared for how much fun I was going to have. I
Right.
can recall off the top of my head a domestic call. We get to the house. They had called several times throughout the night, and a friend of mine, he shows up, and he was a seasoned grumpy vet. Now I'm in there talking to these people again. I was a young officer trying to resolve a married couple's problems when I'm some single 25-year-old guy. I have no idea what they're even talking about. And he comes in, he starts yelling at me in front of them. So I start blowing the whistle at him. I pull a whistle out of my pocket. So I start blowing the whistle at him. And he tells me in no uncertain terms that I wasn't going to get out of that house unscathed if I blew that whistle one more time. And of course, I blew the whistle again. And I ran up the steps, and he went to go chase me. And subsequently, we all departed, and we never heard from that family again. So that was the resolving issue that we had. The way to get out of that was for us to just create total anarchy in that house. And they never called us back. And it was just, fighting over who ate the last cupcake or some silly thing,
I
you
love it. I
know.
love it. Now I know you had some.
Why? Do you have one in mind or?
No, no, I just know you had some because you're you.
No, I've seen, I mean, it's the same thing, right? There's a lot of stuff that ends up being pretty entertaining and pretty funny. I had one of my guys. Uh, we were chasing this dude. We were in a foot pursuit, and the guy fled from a stolen vehicle. So we're chasing him, and we have to go across an interstate, and then we drop down into this creek bed, and my cop is running after this guy, like right behind him. I'm like, oh, there's people on the other side of the river. We're pretty good if he's going that way. So this this young officer gets to the embankment of the creek. It wasn't even really a river.
Right, right.
I mean, I think it was called a river. It was South Platte, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But so the bad guy goes down the embankment and is in the water, and my young officer decides that the best course of action is to launch himself off of the top of the bank and try and tackle this guy mid-river. Totally misses and just ends up submerged in the river. And I just started dying laughing. And the only thing I could think of was, I can't wait to play his body cam tomorrow in briefing. And we pulled it up the next day, and you could see him launch and just belly flop coming down in the river, coming up into the camera and just plop.
Oh, I love it.
Died laughing. Died laughing. We ended up getting some of the other cops on the other side of the river, got the guy as soon as he came out, but it was hilarious.
Mine was very funny, although it wasn't funny for me at first. In hindsight, it's actually hysterical. But so I'm with another officer, another sergeant, and we pull into this 7-Eleven. Okay, and it's a summer day and it's daytime and it's the 7-Eleven is packed. There's always people coming and going, right? And so we get out and we go in, and I've said this on other episodes. I like Slurpees, right? So I get a Slurpee. He gets whatever he's doing. So, because I like Slurpees because they're free, right? But so anyway, we get our
All
Slurpee.
cops and free shit.
Well, what people don't know about me is I have horrible arachnophobia. Okay. Like
Ooh,
Horrible
Oh,
arachnophobia.
it's bad.
It's bad.
I'm gonna have to remember that.
It's super entertaining too.
It's not entertaining. But anyway, so we come out of this 7-Eleven and he goes to get in the passenger side and I go get in the driver's side. We open the doors and we're both getting in at the same time. And now, mind you, there's a lot of people going in and out of this 7-Eleven and there's video cameras because this 7-Eleven is a hotbed. It gets robbed all the times, all this stuff, right? So I'm getting in the car, he's getting in the car, and as he gets into the car, okay, he sits down. Now, I didn't know this, but he has a horrible fear of bees. Okay. So as we get into the car, apparently a bee comes into the car, but he sees it and yells, "Oh, fuck." And he swipes it. Well, he swipes it over towards me, but I think it's on a web. I think it's a spider. So I
It's
yell, "Shit." And I dive out of the car and he dives out of the car. Well, when I say dive out of the car, my feet are still in the car. I land on my back in the parking lot. So does he, because we're both trying to get out of the car. And then we do that where you scoot away from your car and we're both screaming. I'm screaming, fuck, 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 fuck. And he's like, son of a bitch, right? And I look at him and I go, he goes, "Hey, where's the bee?" And I swear to God, I yelled at him, I go, "Fuck the bee, where's the spider?" And this group of people are standing here, and this one lady goes, "And that's what's protecting us."
oh yes, that's hilarious.
Oh,
And you just can't recover from that.
yeah.
No, and
I
that's
got
the perception, right? You wrote down on your report that it was a spider, and he wrote that it was a bee.
it was. Oh yeah. So we went back and I had to get the video for this. I had to get the video for this because and not so I can share it with people. I just didn't want it. And the manager tells me, we can't give it to you. Can't give it to you. So not true. Not true. Some people got their hands on it.
Oh no.
Yeah. I don't remember who the manager, what her name was, but
I can't remember.
she really loved the cop.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, but she
Must
really
have been
loved
Rosie or
she really loved the
Rose.
cops, but she was she was screwing with me. Can't give it to you. But then somebody else got this video and it was horrible. I mean, it was just so bad. In hindsight, it's really funny, but I mean, and then you got to understand there's Slurpee everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Slurpees are delicious. They
Oh,
are
they
delicious on
are.
a hot summer day.
Oh, they so are
Yeah.
you.
I mean, Rick and I actually had a funny moment together that kind of going back to body cams,
Oh
kind of saved
no.
our ass.
Oh yeah.
So when I first started training to be a sergeant,
Not good.
he was training me, and we roll up on this fight in the street. One dude's got a chain and he's swinging it at another guy. So we both jump out, gun point him, get down on the ground, drop the chain. Dude does everything. We hook that guy up. We're
Just a
talking
little struggle.
yeah, it was
We had
a
to fight
struggle
with
for it.
him.
We had to fight with him a little bit, but we get him hooked up, no big deal. And then the victim and some witnesses are over there, so we're talking to them, and we're like, okay, we get some other cops there to take the bad guy down and all this stuff, and we're like, all right, well, let's go get the chain. So we turn around, and the chain's gone. Some hood rat just walked by and between the patrol car and the suspect's car and picked the chain up and walked away with
We
it.
didn't even see it.
Didn't even see it. So we had to write up a
There you
report,
got
and then we had to go to court
And
and
testify.
testify and explain what happened to the chain.
So I'm on the stand. And they're showing our body camera, and
Like it's right there, right there.
the defense says, "So where's this chain?" And
Mhm.
I'm like, well, it was there. And he's like, "Did you enter it into evidence?" Well, no. Well, Sergeant, why didn't you enter it into evidence? Because somebody took it. He's like, somebody took your evidence from you. Well, they took it while we were fighting with your client. Well, if you're fighting with my client, how do you know somebody took it? How do we know that there was ever a chain? Luckily for us,
It was on body cam.
it was on body camera.
Ah,
Thank God.
But what's
Right.
what's cool is you see it when we're taking him at gunpoint. You see him swinging the chain. You see him
Drop it.
dropping the chain, doing all that. And then when we're walking back, and this is what's funny you can see us on body camera as we're walking back up to get the chain. We kind of walk together because we have officers on scene and we're like, hey, we're going to get this chain. and we're going to give it to an officer for them to go book in because, sergeants, so we don't book stuff in. Right.
Mm-mm.
So, but
No.
we're going to go grab the chain for him. Right. And as we're walking up, we're kind of like walking together and we look like Huey and Dewey because we walk and both of us stand and you can see our body cams because we
Kind
kind
of
of turn
spinning
to each other.
around, going,
And both of us are going, what the fuck?
what happened to the chain?
Yeah, he's doing what happened to the chain? I don't know. I was with you. Yeah, he's doing it. Well, it's not here. Well, no kidding. And we're literally arguing on camera.
Oh man,
And then we had
I
to hear from
love
the
it.
cop, from our officers too, like, so you
Mhm.
guys lost some evidence, huh? Like, we didn't lose it. Somebody took it. There's a difference.
They stole it.
There's a
They
difference.
stole it from us.
Runs out with all these cops and steals your evidence.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But
That's
And it
what
wasn't like a family member of our suspect. He was driving through and I don't know what happened, but he jumped
something.
out of his car. So it was like,
He wasn't
swinging
from
his chain. It was ridiculous.
But
So,
I guess that's the thing, right? If you're not having fun on the job, then it's probably time to
and yeah,
pop smoke.
pop smoke.
You know,
Exactly.
get out of it,
time to
right?
go.
Like, you know,
So if you could give advice right now, right here, right now to an officer newly coming into the profession, right? What would that be?
Well, of course, the number one thing I would say is join the ADB Nation so you can have all the networking training at your fingertips. That's obviously the self promo right there.
There
it
you
is.
go. There it is.
Unashamed plug.
Unashamed. Yes.
Unashamed.
Although it's great. I think ADB Nation is going to be huge. So what would you tell young officers about seeking out training? Let's go with that.
You definitely want to constantly be looking for the highest level of training possible out there and invest in yourself. And I say this over and over and over again. And I'd never heard it before. Richard Branson from Virgin Airlines had said it. And I had that quote, and it was one of the first posts I had on LinkedIn was, if the organization invests in its people, the people will take care of the customers. So if you don't do that as an organization and invest in your people, you're not going to have good customer service. And so I say to that officer out there that joined an agency, maybe your agency is great, maybe it stinks or somewhere in between. Always be investing in yourself because they can't take that education away from you. And that's the Warren Buffett.
Exactly.
Investing in yourself. That's the biggest investment you can do is in yourself.
So now let's talk for a second about ADB, right? Because ADB offers several really cool options for officers who want to sort of level up, improve where they are, right? And, some officers, they can't afford to send themselves to training, but joining ADB offers them other options, right?
Sir, absolutely. You can come in there and you can jump on our webinars. You can jump on podcasts. You can watch podcasts from high level folks. You can watch podcasts with regular old sergeants like me and cops that are running around. There's plenty of opportunity to go out there and network. Again, if it's something where if you want to be in law enforcement, the days of waiting for someone to come along and train you up on a particular thing is not going to happen. No matter what it is, you can get information inside the ADB Nation. You can get that high level contact with individuals, professionals that are out there, whether you're talking about, leadership courses and people that are instructing that, like you guys. You could be doing, Heidi Chance and her human trafficking. You could be talking about it, the crimes against children that Randall's doing. There's plenty of subjects out there that are imperative at this stage of your career, because with the fewer amount of officers that are out there right now, you're going to be expected to do a whole lot more than individuals like I was when I first got on. You have to be multifaceted. It's you have to have your tentacles out there touching every single aspect of law enforcement. And that's what we offer there. It's a community to network and level up.
I love the network. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the networking thing's huge. I mean, early on in my career, we didn't have anything like the Nation or even really social media was limited at that time. And, so when you went to trainings, that's kind of where your networking occurred for people from other agencies and whatnot. And I remember they would always put out like the class roster with everybody's phone number, what agency they were from. Everybody got a copy of it. And there was, I mean, it was great talking to those guys and meeting people at different trainings, whether it be, you know, SWAT or canine. You know, because like with canine, I did a lot of like interdiction training and you know, stuff strictly related to the dogs and whatnot. But you'd meet these people and then have a question, and you're like, man, I never really thought about this aspect of it. I need to call somebody. And then you're like, oh, well, yeah, I met that dude that, you know, 6 months ago at that thing that he was talking about doing this stuff all the time. I'll ring him up, you know, and it was a lot harder to do then. Whereas now with the networking ability that people would have on the nation, it's a lot faster and I think cleaner too, because you can look at it and you go, oh, well, this person is an expert in this. This person's an expert in that. I'll just hit them up and ask my questions and see what they can help me with, you know, on whatever I got going on, a case, whatever it may be. You know, I think it's huge.
And you have so many high caliber instructors at ADB. Kind of explain that. What do you got in there? I mean, we have, there's I've met some of the most amazing people in ADB.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what Bonnie tasked me with going out there and finding instructors. And I knew from my experience, I wanted high level, high octane individuals that were going to go out there and um, pour into these people the knowledge through their passion for law enforcement to go out there and make sure that they're taking care of the students that are there. They're engaging with them. It's not just, you know, and I keep saying it, the death by PowerPoint. I can go up there and teach any class and with a PowerPoint. You guys can give me a PowerPoint presentation. I can go next slide, next slide, next slide. That's not doing anything for a student now. I mean, that's checking a box, and we can no longer afford to do that. We can't do what we used to do as far as training is concerned. We need explosive, dynamic instructors that are going to go out there and really rattle these students in a positive way to where they're hyped up in that class like they drank 30 coffees that morning. So they're able to say, wow, this is really awesome, because it's great for them to learn that way. And it's also great for them to go back to their agency and tell, you know, the words will get out. Hey, this is a high level class. And that's just not just to come to ADB, which is, you know, self plug, but it's to say, this is the new standard that we are setting. And we are not going back to what it was before. What it was before is great for a book on a shelf, and we can look back and say, look what we did in 1942. But to go out there and continue to do it that way is silly, and it's a waste of time.
Well, and you know what I find interesting is the level of experience that you guys have brought in for instructors and stuff, and the passion that they have. I mean, these aren't people who just they once in a while want to talk about stuff. I mean, these people are living their passion. I mean, they live and breathe child trafficking. They live and breathe, you know, crypto crimes, right? You know, I'm not a
Yep.
techie guy, so is that even I mean, is that a word? So,
Cryptocurrency.
there you
And,
go.
you know, we got the cryptocurrency folks out there like Robert Whitaker and
Yeah.
Scott, and they're out there and they're extremely knowledgeable about something that is new to us in law enforcement. I mean, it's that situation right there, that and the money laundering, that the class that Monty does. You start talking about the elderly individual who, you know, went and gave all their money away to someone far away in another country or what have you. That as a cop in Philadelphia, I was never trained to do that.
Right.
And that's
Oh,
not
no.
throwing shade on the agency. They just didn't know what to do. Where would you find an instructor like this?
Mhm.
And that's where we gathered these people together to have this cadre of folks that are, you know, subject matter experts in the field. They can go out there, and then not only do you take the class, so you learn there, but again, you go back inside the nation and you're working on building those relationships and asking those questions of the instructors that are out there.
Exactly. And you know, and it's interesting is because there's such a broad spectrum of instruction coming out of ADB. Everything from these specialized classes like, you know, cryptocurrency and child trafficking and undercover investigations and all this stuff to the boots on the ground officer who may not be a part of one of those types of units or investigating that stuff. But I mean, there's training out there for, situational awareness and, and high level patrol tactics and strategies and, strategic thinking and stuff like that. But there's also trainings on resilience, right? Mental health, physical fitness. We just did a podcast not too long ago, just on with a trauma therapist. I encourage everybody, but she does a phenomenal job, and she breaks it down for people. I mean, and you get this information just off of the podcast, but then you go to these trainings where you're seeing these people in real life, and they're answering your personal questions. I mean, how much better can it get? And you got somebody who's an instructor in whatever they're teaching, who's so passionate that when you walk out of there, you are so excited, and you probably are walking away with a little more information than you would have by a death by PowerPoint for sure, right? But you can take that back to your agency and start imparting some of the stuff that you learned. You know what I mean? Because the big thing about training is you never want to go to training and then never share it when you get back. You want to share that stuff and share what you experienced and learned, and share the passion that comes from ADB, right? And you have some of the most passionate instructors I think that are out there.
And that it was a long process of people that we went through of, identifying the people that had the similar core values of us they had to be passionate individuals, and they had to be experts in their field to go out there and do it, because that's how we level up this industry and maximize every ounce of energy we can get out of everyone in the profession.
Wonderful. Well, again, ADB Nation folks, I mean, join. It's here for you. I mean, this is your nation. All right. So make sure you're checking it out. Make sure you're signing up for some of these courses. If nothing else, jump in. We do an open mic night. People get to come on, ask questions, say what's on their mind, learn from everybody else. I mean, it is a nation.
I just get on so I can see Danny's smiling face.
I go every week to see Danny's smiling face and his pondering thought look. All right, folks, that's this week's episode. Thank you, Danny.
Thanks,
Danny Mee, ADB Training. Check it out. Make sure that you send us something in the nation and let us know that you're enjoying it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thank you.